All right, it's 6 o'clock and we have a quorum, so shall we begin? Okay, well, uh, Olivia, if you'd like to call the roll to get us started, we'd much appreciate it.
Present. Here.
Here? Here?
Here.
Not here. And Carl Metz unfortunately submitted his resignation from the committee about a week ago. So we are down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members now, and we have 4 present. So we have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. I want to remind everyone that we are covering the fiscal period from what would it be, July 1st through September 30th, correct? When we go through the financial results. So we got a big agenda this evening. Any changes to the agenda to suggest? Okay, motion to approve. Jen got you, but you got the second. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Agenda approved. So we're in the public comment section now. I don't see anyone in the audience. Anyone on Zoom? No one on Zoom. Okay. Moving into section 4, then our action items. So first up is approval of the minutes from our August 5th meeting, and those were included in the agenda as attachment 4.1. Any comment on the minutes from the last meeting? No. Hearing any motion to approve minutes? Janet?
Second.
Second from Jit Paul. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed, approved. All right, so now we are taking up in the next 2 action items, topic from our last meeting, which was approval of the Measure T and Measure S annual reports for the 23-24 fiscal period. There were a number of corrections that we wanted made in the report, and there was a discrepancy between the district financials and the auditor report that we wanted to clear up. So those corrections have been made. Clarification was made in the report about the discrepancy, and we have them back on the agenda for approval tonight. Any discussion on, let's start with the Measure T report, which is attached as 4.2. Okay. Any was everyone clear on the rationalization between the audit report and the district finances? We put a blurb in there. It was an accounting thing, doesn't affect the actual dollars in the fund. Rick, you saw the discrepancy. Are you satisfied with how we've described it?
I am, yes.
Don't forget to unmute your mics when you're talking, everyone.
Yes, I was the one who brought up the issue in the last meeting, and I am satisfied with the that we now are agreeing with the audited financial statements, and there's an explanation as to why that doesn't agree with the the district's financials, and it's basically an allocation or reclassification between one of the bonds, Measure S, and the other one, and that will be corrected this year, right? Yeah. Yes. So I'm happy.
Okay, great. And we put, just to be clear and in the record on, where's the table there? It's page 5 of the report where we list out a kind of a summary of the expenses and revenue for the year. And there's a footnote there or an asterisk note that explains in several sentences what we just described. Okay, any questions on the Measure T report? If not, is there a motion to approve it?
I'll move to approve this report.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Second?
I'll second.
Jit Paul, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Measure S report, similar correction was made, or addition, I should say, to explain the discrepancy. Any discussion on the Measure S report? Okay, motion on the Measure S report. Janet, thank you. Second. Jen, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the two annual reports are approved and they will now be posted to the website and passed along to the board. All right, so that takes us to item 4.4. And this is something that was requested to be put on the agenda for tonight, which is we have a committee member who is qualified under the excessive absences section of the bylaws that basically say if someone doesn't show up for multiple meetings, the board has the opportunity to decide whether to remove them and from the committee and open the spot for someone else. So I see if I have it. I don't know if Olivia, do you know offhand with the last meeting that Jacqueline attended? I can tell you here in a moment.
I did see Jacqueline out of randomly. I don't know if this is appropriate place, but I saw she worked at a nursing facility at the Elms as a nurse. I went to go see my father-in-law there, and I did talk to her. Just want to let you know. Did say, we're on the committee. I'm overseeing you, blah, blah, blah. I said, I did mention, casually, like, oh, we'd love to see you again at the meetings, and it's all about participation from making sure that all districts are shown as representative, and we'd love to have you come. And she did mention, she wishes she had more time. This was a second job she was working. And it gets pretty hectic. She's a single parent. So she did mention she wishes she had more time to come. And I said, yeah, I gave her the date of this meeting. Right there, and I told her to write it down, stuff that she did. So just bringing that up as mentioned, that I did run into her casually. It's a very weird place to meet, but we did discuss it. She said she would, but she did say it's very difficult for her to.
Yeah. Understood. I'm glad you were able to make that connection. So she last attended the August 24 meeting, so she's missed now 5 meetings over a year and a quarter. So if we need a motion to officially remove her from the committee.
I'll make that motion reluctantly.
Of course.
You know,
Agreed.
yes, please, if there's a way of when we let her know this, that you let her know the committee is reluctant to make this, but we need to move forward. And if ever again she wants to, her time frees up, she could reapply.
Is there a second to the motion? Jen, all in favor? Yeah, I'm sorry. I skipped the discussion. I'm sorry.
Paul, fortunately, I was running into her. Has anybody heard from her in that year and a quarter? And have we tried to reach out to her?
Yeah.
Yeah, and no response?
I've emailed her several times, no
Okay.
response.
And nobody's gotten a response? Okay.
So,
I
yeah,
did talk to her extensively. I tried to talk to her, and she was like, yeah, I would love to get more involved, and just felt like it was time. She thanked me for help, whatever. It's just, but I think it's difficult for her to get here.
yeah.
So it sounds like you got the impression after your long conversation that she really didn't have the ability to be on the committee at this time, right?
I think it's very difficult for her. Yes. It's very.
So Rick, just to bring you up to, we've had this discussion several times and you're new, but that's always been my biggest concern is, have we reached out enough to her? Have we given her the opportunity? Because understanding, a single parent, not knowing she was working 2 jobs. I mean, it was very difficult. So, I mean, she didn't sign up not wanting to attend, and life just goes that way. But yes, so staff has really worked trying. I was willing to call her myself, but there's kind of a protocol that you need to go through, and so, yeah.
Good. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yes,
Sounds like
yeah.
we've done everything that
We-
we should
yeah.
do.
I think we've put it off as long as we can, so, yeah.
Okay, is there, there was a second, I believe. So, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Action taken, with regret. It's not like we have people pounding on the door to come join the committee. Unfortunately, we're losing them faster than they're coming on. So, we normally have an agenda item to discuss the district outreach on every agenda since we haven't had a full committee in quite some time. It's not on the agenda tonight, but I think we should put it on for next time and again, redouble our efforts to rebuild the committee. We're missing, mandated membership. Okay, that takes us into section 5 then, discussion items. So 5.1 is the Measure S implementation plan. So just as a quick background, the facilities master plan was approved by the board. That was the wish list of all the things we could spend bond money on. The next step is to prioritize, well, what do we spend the next 200 million of the Measure S on? 190 million or 100 million is already committed. So what do we spend the remaining 200 million on? And so the bond team has been hard at work and did a presentation for the board 2 weeks ago, was it? Of several ways to prioritize and get into the process of picking the projects. So Nick is here this evening. Martin's here to talk about, give I think, a quick overview, not go through the whole presentation that was presented to the board. You can watch the video. I'm sure all of you have reviewed the slides, but certainly give an overview and then take your questions about what the next steps are in the process.
Yeah, I'll just add, thanks, Carl, for what you said. This is available. It was a study session with the board a couple of weeks ago that lasted, I don't know, maybe a bit over 2 hours, somewhere in that time frame. We certainly don't want to take 2 hours tonight going through the entire presentation. I've asked Nick to just start with the 3 scenarios that we presented to the board, to go through those quickly, to give some background on this. This is work that is continuing on with the district, which includes Nick and VPCS and the entire VPCS team. And we're preparing right now. Granted, not much has changed in the 2 weeks since the board meeting, but we're preparing for bringing this back to the board tentatively in January, right? So I'll ask Nick to and Martin to talk about the 3 scenarios that can be used as we go through this. That'll probably be the foundation as we move forward in preparation for the board meeting in January. Go ahead, Nick, Martin.
Good evening, everyone. So as Rick and Carl said, we did do.
Is your mic on, Nick? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yep.
So I'm gonna start. I think it's at. Is it not working? Oh.
Thank you. Got the light now.
I think this is slide 54. So the first part of the presentation was a review of Measure T and all the projects. We also went through the facilities master plan process that we did, and then we gave an update on current projects. So like Rick said, we're right to the first scenario that we presented. We identified some district-wide needs, the LED lighting and controls upgrade that you guys already know about, the HVAC upgrades that have already been committed to, and then we identified in gray at the top here some other district-wide needs, kitchen and speed line upgrades, utility upgrades at campuses, student restroom upgrades, and several of our elevators need replacement. So, and then below that, in this first scenario, was TKK upgrades at each site that is listed on the master plan. As you know, this is a fairly new requirement that we have to offer TK, and some of our classrooms aren't per the approved ed spec for TK, so they need some upgrades. So this is upgrades at every campus, and as you could see, after the project contingency and management costs, which are the same for every scenario, because they're based on the $298 million total, we're right up just under the 298.
The interim housing.
Interim housing is when we have to create temporary classrooms or housing for whatever program is in those buildings to modernize that building. So a lot of times in modernizations, you have to do that. We got to move them out into a temporary space during construction and then move them back in. And then I'm going to jump to the next scenario, which is some of the other projects that scored high on the IOQ in the facilities master plan. So there's a range of projects here, some new buildings, some modernizations on campuses. I did do an estimate on interim housing for those that you can see here and the IOQ scores. Some of the lower IOQ scores that were included on here were some district-wide benefit, like the auditorium at MIT NSA, or some mutually beneficial projects, particularly at that campus. So we went through kind of all these other IOQ projects, most of them above 90 as a score. And then scenario 3 was really, we committed to the LED lighting and the HVAC, and we were asking the board, was there anything on these lists that we missed?
So scenario 3 is right in your own scenario, basically.
A little
is what
bit,
you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
But again, you can see the project contingency and management costs are the same at the bottom here. And as Rick said, we're anticipated to go back to the board in January. We're waiting on some information, particularly TK enrollment information. So that's why January. Any questions?
So what, without going through the whole thing, what's the number at the bottom that's available after the committed? It's 153 is essentially available after the commitments on the lighting and the HVAC projects. I keep using 200, but that doesn't include the management costs and the contingency. So 150 is the correct number. So what was some of the feedback that you got from the board then that you're taking under advisement?
You guys can help me with this. Well, TK enrollment was a big one that we want to do TK, but only what's necessary. And the board wants some larger projects on the list. So, we're doing some data collection to propose some of those type of projects.
Does TK have to be at this facilities that are open? Like, could we put TK in facilities that are currently leased out to other schools?
Well, we would still need to do, we don't have the correct bathrooms, the baths, so we would still have to go in that direction. But the reason for the TK, waiting for the TK enrollment, as you all know, this fall when we started, it's all 4-year-olds at your 4-year at any time. Before, it was in increments by this date, but now all 4-year-olds come. So this is the big bubble, but we want to see what's coming. So we added, was it 3 additional ones to bring us to, 19? And so I don't think we're going to need 19 classrooms. So we start enrollment next week. So parents who have TKs and where TKs are quite prevalent at certain schools, we're going to get those numbers right away. Because they want to have their space, they want to hold on to their space and know they've got it.
But I know that there was a mention on the other budget shortfall of what to do with the other facilities that were leased out. Those cannot be used, like the old Orion building as an example. I don't know how much use that gets. That couldn't be used for TK housing. Even if we did upgrade
You're talking,
the tank park.
815
Yeah, yeah.
It's being used, it's rented. I thought you were talking about Granger Way.
Or at Hawes or any of the
Hawes is being
Hawes
used.
I know that we have some charter schools, but anyway.
In general, I think what the board, if I recall correctly, asked was, we could concentrate TKs in certain areas. They don't need to necessarily have them at every single school site. It doesn't have to map to every neighborhood school needs to have TK. So there was some discussion, remind me, I think, Mike, about there could be TK concentrations at certain campuses. That was one of the scenarios that you guys talked about.
I don't think we were suggesting scenarios. We were just asking,
just
like,
asking
what are the
some of the
requirements for
questions
TK?
you asked,
And
yeah.
there is not a requirement that every neighborhood school has TK at it. We can configure TK. You could have a TK center. You could have, you could have TK, at some of the schools and not all of them. I think it really depends upon the need and availability of.
That's better
facility.
articulated
Yeah.
than what I said.
And
Thank you.
you also have to provide a TK seat for any family that requests it. It does, to the point, it doesn't have to be at the neighborhood school. But if a 4-year-old comes in and requests TK, you have to provide a seat.
Was there additional budgeting for that?
We've done a lot of
Not
additional
for us.
budgeting. We haven't received any additional revenue.
You know why, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're community funded. If we were not community funded, the state picks up the cost for the teacher, the instructional aid, the materials to build the classroom, anything that you have to put into it. They pick it up, but not for us.
We're in the donut.
So when, okay. So the process is you guys are doing another round of revisions and then you're gonna come back to the board in January is what we heard. And is that for approval then that would kick off some projects? Is that the intent, Rick? Or that's just the next study session?
As of right now, that's the next time the board will be presented with the implementation plan. We don't know at what stage it'll be at for certain tonight.
Is there any estimates of how many kids might enroll? Well, probably just no.
Not at this point. So, as Dr. Baker mentioned, this was the first year of full year TK implementation, which does create a bubble, right? Each year that it went out 3 months, created additional students that we normally didn't get, but we also saw a decrease in kindergartners because they're now coming in at TK, right? So that's flattened out as well because they're coming in a year earlier. So now with TK being full year next year, we'll be able to determine if it's going to follow the same patterns that other grade levels are following, right? So after the bubble comes in, is it going to start tailing off like we're seeing in grade levels K through 8, which then continues our declining enrollment. TK kind of stabilized or kept enrollment flat for the last 3 years.
Question, is it immersion options for TK or is it all just same throughout the district?
Could you repeat
Is there immersion, like standard immersion?
Is the
TK?
curriculum the same for all?
There is a Mandarin immersion TK, and because on the lump it, we have a Spanish one. We have, or, right.
All right. Any more that you wanted to cover on that, or any further questions for the team on the implementation plan progress?
So TKK classroom upgrades though would technically possibly upgrade provide more space for other classrooms at each point. If we were.
Is your mic on, Jitpal, by the way, when you're speaking? I wasn't sure.
TK upgrades, because they would provide more space for other classrooms, correct? And is there anything specific for TK upgrades that were different from other classrooms?
Yes, actually, that's why I pulled up this slide.
Okay.
Per our approved ed specs, TK classrooms are about a classroom and a half compared to a standard classroom, and they require special play equipment, special restrooms, and most of the time the restroom is in the classroom.
Additional classrooms 960, right?
Yes, 960.
TK classrooms 13.
And to answer your question about additional space, it depends on the project. Some of the master plan shows new buildings for TK and some show renovation. So in the renovations, you're taking 3 classrooms and turn them into 2 TK, right?
All right, other questions on 5.1 or discussion? All right, thank you. 5.2, discuss measure S progress, including our CBOC inspection tour findings. So I believe, Nick, you've got some slides to go through on
Yeah.
what's progressed in measure S since
Yes.
we last met.
I have some quick project updates. So starting with the LED lighting and controls, just reminder, this is all classroom lighting and controls. This is just a before and after of the same classroom. You know, so you can see the upgrades. This is just an example of the controls. So they're all dimmable switches, occupancy sensors in the classrooms for energy savings. And to date, all but one of the school district sites, campuses are complete. Hoover is currently under construction. And then next, McKinley Theater's kind of a specialty situation. So McKinley Theater, and then we'll move on to the charter sites. For HVAC phase 1, reminder that's Adelante, Selby, Hoover, Roosevelt, and Taft. The activity going on now is programming district-wide. So this is just a snapshot of the Siemens programming, which gives us way more control than we had before. The old controls were like the old Mercury thermostats, and now the maintenance team can troubleshoot remotely from their office, from a computer, before even going out to the site and see what's going on with each individual unit. So the programming is going on now, and then we will commission, and then we'll do the closeout process in December, January. So we'll close out with DSA, do final change orders, and move on to phase 2. So HVAC phase 2, a reminder that's Clifford, Kennedy, and Orion. Right now we are in the design phase. I actually expect a 50% set from our architects the week of Thanksgiving. Shortly after that, we plan to do a RFP for pre-construction services to contractors, approval in January, February, and construction in the summer, and again, close out in the fall, just like phase 1. And then we already talked about the implementation plan and coming back to them in January.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Back on the lighting project, you had a slide there that showed progress. I think you said 12 out of 18 sites done.
Yes.
What is the estimated completion, if you just had to guess today, when it'll all be done?
Our schedule, on-site work in the spring, and then I think close out in the summer.
So by summer, all sites will be done.
Correct.
Okay. And I believe the value of the lighting upgrade project about 17 million, isn't it? Roughly, I think is
Just under that.
So, and there's 18 sites, so it's like $1 million per site. It works out to, if you average it out. One of the issues that came up when the board was considering this is not putting new lighting in buildings that we're going to renovate or tear down or replace, right? I'm sure some of you remember that discussion. This will all be complete before, even possibly before any the decisions have been made by the board about what buildings to tear down or renovate, right? So we will have spent $1 million potentially on a school site that's going to get renovated. And I thought that the board agreed that we wouldn't do that we would wait to do lighting upgrades until we knew what the implementation plan was going to be, so that we wouldn't spend money putting LED lighting into facilities that we're going to replace potentially.
Well, if we did a renovation on a campus, the lighting would mostly stay the same. So we would still use the lighting and controls that are installed in most cases. What we did is we pushed any campuses that had buildings being demolished in the master plan to the end of the schedule.
But they're all going to be done before even it's decided what buildings to demolish, it sounds like, correct? I mean, one of the discussions was, well, we may not spend the whole 17 million. We can always do a change order. I remember we had that discussion in here. We can always do a change order and the contractor will reduce their spend if we decide not to do a building. But because of the timing, we're going to spend the whole 17 million, correct? Before we even really know what buildings we might tear down.
Is that all of some cost, or is some of that existing infrastructure that will stay, or salvaging fixtures, or?
Yes, in a modernization, that's existing infrastructure that would stay.
So it's not a whole 17 million that we're gonna take out.
No, but if you take out a building at, I don't know, McKinley, for example, or what was on your list of scenario 2, you had some new buildings on there, I think, didn't you?
Yes, there are some new buildings in the master plan.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
So if we tear down that building, the $200,000 of LED lighting that went into that building will be trashed.
No.
You would reuse old lighting in a new building? Okay, I'm pretty skeptical of that, but
We can salvage.
okay, how about the labor to install them twice? Does that get recovered for the taxpayers? So the 17 million is going to be spent and there won't be any savings on that by not putting it into buildings that are going to get renovated or approved. Correct? Right, Rick?
Yes, Carl, but I mean, if we have to remove a light or use it again, that will happen when the implementation plan is completed.
So why didn't we pause the renovation of certain buildings that are on the potential tear down list until the master plan implementation was approved, thus saving the taxpayers the money of putting in LED lighting in buildings that might be torn down?
I think the cost of reusing and the labor is not that high when we're reusing the LEDs that we're putting into these buildings.
What do you mean?
Well, we won't have to buy LED lights and fixtures for the new buildings where we're able to reuse.
I mean, that's just pure speculation that the fixture that's this size is going to be the fixture the architect designs in a new building, right? I mean, I think
Well, we direct it.
It's not speculation. I mean, you tell the architect what fixture you want to use in the building and they put it in.
okay, but you're paying for the labor to do it again, to take it out of the old building that you're demolishing, save it and reuse it in a new building. Are you really saving any money? I mean,
Electrical.
I think the promise that was made when the board approved this was that we wouldn't put LED lighting fixtures in buildings that are going to get torn down. That was the discussion that happened at the meeting.
Clarification, at the board meeting, that was the conversation that took place.
That came up at the board meeting, partly because I made public comment on this. Is why you can tell I'm passionate about this topic, because I was the one who made the public comment that why are we putting LED lighting in buildings that in a year from now might be on a plan for demolition? And we were assured, and then assured again at the CBOC meeting that followed that, happy to share the minutes, that absolutely we would not be putting LED lighting in buildings that were could be scheduled for demolition and be replaced as part of the Measure S implementation plan. And here we are putting LED lighting in every building in the district without respecting that directive that we wouldn't put LED lighting in buildings that could potentially be demolished.
So then,
Carl, you have to understand something,
Yeah.
that we have to upgrade the lighting. We can't purchase the ballasts, we can't purchase any of these fluorescent tubes anymore. So
I'm sure there's
if we
plenty of
don't-
ballasts and tubes coming out of the buildings you're renovating that you could stockpile for
but-
years.
But still, you can't, right? Then you're talking about price escalation on labor, price escalation on the material as well. You know, if we wait that long, right?
so my question would be, the buildings that you're referring to, and I respect your passion on this. They are currently being used. The buildings are being used. They're going to continue to be used until the decision is made at some point to possibly tear down these buildings. That decision has not been made yet, correct?
Correct.
Therefore, we need to, our requirement is to upgrade
Yes.
what we currently have in front of us. To your point, I can see
Well,
kind of.
there's no
what's-
requirement to upgrade. It was
But
just a
if
district
the current
decision.
Fixtures need maintenance and replacements, are we gonna keep maintaining?
So the fluorescent tubes are banned.
They're banned, they cannot.
Yeah, but
be.
you, just like you just said, hey, it's okay, we can save the new fixtures from the buildings we're gonna tear down.
Which are LED, correct?
And why not, you could save the fluorescent fixtures and ballast you're taking out of 18 campuses, and that would serve your maintenance needs for the next 10 years, Martin. So I don't buy your argument that we can't buy fluorescent bulbs or ballast. You're gonna have tons of them left over from this retrofit.
But you're not allowed to use
Yeah, you're
them.
not supposed to.
You're not, that is not.
Oh, I don't think the law says you can't maintain your fixture, right? It just
It has
says
to be upgraded to an LED.
It has to be upgraded.
there is no law that says you have to upgrade you to an LED fixture. It just says you can't buy fluorescent lights anymore. That's the law. They're phased out for purchase in California. So I'm just,
I need to challenge that. Are we sure there is no law that says we cannot use those in our classrooms? I'm not saying in our homes. God forbid if you take them out of my house, but I'm just kidding. Could we actually have that looked at? Because there was something I heard about that. Could we get clarification on that, please? Okay. Not that I don't.
No, I
but
think what
I
you'll
just-
find is that
clarification.
Martin's absolutely right that the state of California has, said after a certain date, you can't purchase fluorescent bulbs anymore. But I'm sure many districts in the state have stockpiled their supply because their LED retrofit might be 2 or 3 years from now. They may not have a bond to pay for it, right? We have plenty of fluorescent fixtures and ballasts that are coming out of all these schools that are being upgraded. I'm sure that could be a fine storehouse. I don't think that's an excuse to say we had to race through and do these retrofits in these buildings that the taxpayers are funding when we might tear down the building.
Can we get a comment on that statement?
It's kind of like buying that $12,000 hammer, sort of thing. If I see what you're saying, Carl.
Yeah.
Why spend unnecessarily, right?
Well,
But
isn't it-
how long are these buildings gonna stay up before the plan is done? Is another question.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Because you start to get energy savings and cost savings the moment you put in this LED fixture, right? In a programming and design process, if one of those new buildings were one of the first projects, you're still probably looking 2 years from now before that building is demoed. So that's 2 years of cost savings and energy that will largely recoup the labor.
I hear what you're saying. I think you're on a slippery slope because if you go back and look at the energy analysis that was done to justify the LED retrofit upgrade project, the energy savings from fluorescent LED is pretty small. You're hardly going to justify $1 million of fixtures in a campus from 1 year of energy savings. Happy to entertain if you want to come forward with the analysis that showed that, hey, we're putting lights in for a year and we're going to get enough energy savings in lighting to justify the cost for a year. I don't think it's going to pencil out. Even at 20 years, the $17 million is not paid back in the 20-year lifespan of an LED fixture. I think by the district's own analysis, it's like a 50-year payback on the $17 million investment just from energy savings. It's a legitimate project to do. I'm not questioning that. You can't maintain these fixtures anymore. I totally get it. I think what is frustrating as a committee member and taxpayers that we're spending the money, and I'm beating a dead horse here, to put brand new fixtures at the tune of $1 million per campus into campuses that could be renovated or torn down. And there was a specific discussion about not doing that. And yet here we are pushing ahead with putting fixtures in 18 campuses without pausing to say, hey, might we tear down one of those buildings and let's wait and see. Maybe we don't have to spend the $1 million on that campus. So I guess the question is, what was the rush to get the project completed? And why not have paused the campuses where there was potential from the facilities master plan for building replacement? If the campus was not going to get a building replacement, like I don't know, don't want to pick on anybody. I mean, I think Orion got a big new building. Maybe there's not a plan to put a new building on the new Orion campus. Fine, do the LED retrofit. That's great. I'm all for it. But for the ones that were in the facilities master plan that said, hey, we're going to probably knock this down and build something new, what was the justification for doing the lighting retrofit on those campuses?
Do they have a list of those potential sites currently? Is there a list? Does a school board have a list, or does a district have a list of the potential buildings that?
It's in the facilities master
Right,
plan.
it's in the plan.
For each site, it says, it might say modernize these classrooms, replace this building, build a new 2-story building or something.
We
So
did have that
for each site, it's in the facilities master plan. It doesn't mean they're going to get done, of course. That has to be prioritized.
So the facilities master plan has almost $1 billion worth of projects, if I'm remembering right on it, right?
Yeah.
We've got after HVAC and after the lighting projects, we've got a roughly 150 to 180 million dollars because the contingency is going to get spent on construction eventually as well. You're going to what we're saying here is if we took every potential new building in the facilities master plan and we waited, you're going to sit on that and you're going to escalate the cost of construction out for 2-3 years for those buildings to
Why is
save
that
the
true? It's a
labor
fixed
of
price contract.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's a $17 million fixed price contract, right? It's not a time and
It-
materials project. You've already bought the fixtures.
There's a deadline.
What I'm not understanding what you're saying there.
Well, the point
I
you were making, I think, is that the cost would go up if you waited for the district to decide what buildings they were going to tear down. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, construction contracts are based on time or on time and the cost of the labor and the material.
But the material's already been purchased, correct?
Not all, no, they don't purchase all the material up front for every single campus. They'll purchase it as the job goes on. But there's also escalation in labor, which they won't pay out until the end of the project. So they project when they put together their pricing, the cost over the X amount of time that the contract is slated to be completed. So you're talking about the cost of the labor is going to be projected out. I'm going to use round numbers now. If it's a 6-month project, they're going to project the cost of the labor and any increases in the next 6 months. That's on them. If we then tell them to stop, they're going to stop, and then any escalation beyond that 6-month period is going to be on the district. That's going to be at the district's risk. So when we're talking about stopping potentially all new buildings on almost $1 billion worth of needs based on the master plan, I think you're gonna. I'd be challenged to look at the cost benefit analysis of that now. Talking about individual buildings, now we're getting down to, if you look at realistically what's going to get done in this bond based on the IOQ scores, maybe if we go full steam ahead with TK and we go full steam ahead with some of these big projects, we're talking maybe 7 to 10 buildings. I mean, and that's at the maximum would get knocked down district wide.
Of the list we discussed at the board study session, there's 4.
There's 4. Yeah. So we're talking about 4 buildings. So now we're talking about delaying a significant amount of labor for 4 buildings worth of cost. And yes, we're talking about $1 million per campus, but each building, depending on the size of it, again, is going to be significantly less than that. So I think there is a cost component that ties into this. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but at some point you sit and you wait for construction to start, and the longer you wait, the more it costs.
Well, I mean, that brings up a whole nother topic. The bond was passed in 2022. Now we're going to be in 2026 before the board even approves the next round of funding or prioritization. So there's a bigger issue at hand about waiting. But let's get back to the lighting one specifically. So when you sat in this room and said to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, we will not put lighting in buildings that might get torn down, what was going through your mind at that point? Because now you're saying, well, we would never do that. We would do it right away. We want to keep the cost down. We'd go through it as quickly as possible, get them all done. That's what you're advocating now. But you sat here in this room and told us,
No, I don't think, I think there's a little bit of a misrepresentation being right there. What we sat in the room and we said was that if there is a project that comes to the top and that we know and we know, and the board knows, and there is a clear project that is going to come to the top that we know is going to get built, that's going to require the demolition of a building, we'll look at it and we'll phase it. We also said numerous times that we phased and pushed back the project or the campuses that had the most potential for new construction to the back half of the project. So we did that. We pushed the projects back to the back half of the project. Like Nick just said, of the projects that are getting looked at right now, we're talking about 4 potential buildings getting knocked down out of, however, and I don't know how many total buildings there are on all 18 campuses. So yeah, if the timing was perfect and there was decisions and there were decisions being made and there were these overwhelming projects that sat there with overwhelming support from the district, like the HVAC project had, and that required a building to be knocked down, of course we would have looked at it. And I think that's something that was kind of the intent of the discussion that we had. We're talking now about a very small, limited number of fixtures. We're talking now about very small, like I said, 4 buildings. Like I said, none of these right now have been directed to proceed, and none of these have overwhelming support to proceed at the moment. So I think that there is a case to continue on, or there is a case to continue on financially, versus what we were talking about in the beginning of major knockdown. So that's what I was thinking, and that was what was in my head, if that's what you're asking me. But I think that it's a much more nuanced discussion than saying we're spending $1 million on campus. You have to look at actually what's going to happen versus what's happening right now.
so just a couple things. The board may come back and say we want to do all 7 buildings. So yes, 4 was in one scenario you presented. It could be 0 or it could be 7 or 8, right?
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing is, it looks like you're pretty much done with all of the district school sites, and what's left are the charter sites. That's what you presented, Nick, right? So you didn't actually prioritize the sites to the end of the list, because the sites with the buildings that would be replaced are the district sites, and those are the ones that are now done. And you've got 6 more to do, which are the charter campuses where you're not planning on knocking down buildings. So you just said what you would prioritize the campuses with the knockdown buildings last, but you actually prioritize them first.
Yeah, we definitely did prioritize the district campuses before the charter schools. The charter schools were always the last in the schedule.
Why not do the charter schools first if you weren't planning to tear down buildings at any of the charter schools, and put the district buildings last? Then you have the best chance of catching the timing. If the board decides in January, hey, you know what, we want to put a new building at Garfield, don't do the lighting on Garfield, then it would at least have been at the end of the line, right? You would have given yourself a better chance to save the money than doing the district schools first. Do you agree?
I would have to go back and look at the master plan and see if there were and see how that all plays out. I don't know that off the top of my head. Where the new buildings are and where that is.
I don't think the master plan has a single new building on a charter school campus. All the new buildings that you reference.
Honestly, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look through it. It's a several hundred-page document.
But you
I
do
don't
agree
remember.
that the charter schools were prioritized last. They could have been prioritized first, in order to preserve the best chance of not wasting money putting fixtures in schools that are going to get torn down.
Is January board meeting definitively choosing which buildings get reconstructed?
I think we heard from Rick that it's just the next step, and it might be, but they don't know yet.
I mean, it sounds super unlikely to me that that's a very hypothetical of January, we know which buildings it is, and then we shouldn't have done them.
But I think also was this part of the plan initially to know which buildings would possibly get knocked down? And maybe we could have put that money earmarked as only 17 million, made it only like 13 million based on what Carl's saying, and then defer that spending till that building, those buildings were put in place, so that if you did spend for just electrical upgrades.
That's
you could do it at
even
that time.
smarter. Your language of defer, I think, is smart. Why not spend 12 million on the schools that you know you're not going to tear down?
And can see what you're saying, to be honest.
I mean, if you bought a house and said, I think next year I might renovate this place, would you spend $1 million to put in new lighting?
Say I'm gonna tear it out.
And because I might tear it down next year? It just doesn't seem to make fiscal sense. And especially because this very specific topic was brought up at both the board meeting and the CBOC. It's not like it's a surprise to anyone. We talked about this specific situation where we might be wasting taxpayer money by putting fixtures in schools that could be torn down. And we got the assurance, don't worry, we're not going to let that happen. We had a whole discussion, you'll remember, about, well, can we actually get the money back from the contractor if we don't put money in, if we don't put lighting in Garfield? I'm just using Garfield as an example. If we don't put new lighting in there because we're going to put a new building in, can we reduce the contract and get the money? Yes, we can do a reverse change order, or whatever, negative change order. We can get the money refunded. So I hope you all remember that conversation. So it sounds like the die is cast at this point because you've done the 12 schools, right? I mean, you're wrapping up your work at the last school, the district schools now. And it's just the charter schools that remain. So I just want to register my deep disappointment and objection to the misspending of taxpayer money. And, that's the best I can do as a member of this committee, and put it in the report and let it lie where it lies. But I just think it was a mistake. And I think I've made my case. I don't know if anybody else has any further discussion on the topic, or we can move on.
No, if this comes up in the future, though, how would you change it? How would you have the accountability of scope?
Well, I think Jitpal was right on. Authorize the spending on the sites that you're not going to tear anything down, right? Do that as tranche number one. Then do tranche number two after you've prioritized the master plan and you know what buildings you're going to keep and which tear down. Then go do those.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there was like a miscommunication in terms of approvals and processes. The board meeting that it was decided or discussed, we shouldn't do that, didn't make it to the next board meeting where they said, let's do that. So where's the disconnect?
Well, I don't think the district ever brought forward a staged proposal to the boards to even think about. It was just 17 million, approve it or don't approve it.
Mhm.
So that option was never presented to the board. Maybe the board would have considered that, had an option been presented that said, hey, let's do 10 million now, and the remaining 7 million, maybe it's 8 million because costs go up if we wait a year. So it's going to be 18 instead of 17, but it actually may be 10 instead of 18 because we won't put lighting in buildings we're going to tear down. So that option was never presented, I think.
Okay.
Not I think, I know it wasn't presented. It was either spend 17 million and do all the lighting, or don't spend 17 million.
I think there was a lot of pre-planning for what that was being done, but right. I mean, I think the district themselves are caught up on how to spend and what to do with the money. So I think, saying I understand it definitely looks very inefficient, right? Looks like there could have been pre-planning, maybe the master plans could have been hashed out more, but they also were going through the process of checking with the site council, checking with parents. There were surveys sent out. What do you think? How do you want to spend this money? I don't think that was all taken into consideration. I think probably part of this was a democratic process of making sure that people had a say in how those monies were being spent. So I think personally, I think it's just possibly a part of the democratic process and making decisions on as they arrive. And maybe there wasn't a lot of pre-planning that was available or could be done by the board maybe there wasn't a solid plan of what to do, what not to do based on these funds. Who gets the money, who gets more money, who gets what's allocated. So, but I could see where it looks inefficient, and I agree with you, Carl. I do agree with you. I think that it does look like a bit of pork and waste, definitely in terms of spending. I agree, 100%. Why would you do your own lighting? upgrade your lighting when you're gonna put it on the floor. It doesn't make sense. But I think sometimes there's oversight, in construction projects especially. And it sucks because I agree with districts like ours, where publics were funded, we're on that cusp, we don't get a lot of money, we're always down. We should be more efficient, right? This unfortunately is construction money. I wish it could have been used to the schools, but even if it's construction money, maybe the schools could have got better. You know, we could have used that 200,000 towards, you know, something of more value for a school district. Maybe the cafeteria got better, you know, kitchen equipment or whatever it might have been that we could have used that money to. So I understand waste not wanting to be, that's hit hard, but yeah, I don't know if it's a pre-planning thing or not. I don't know. I don't know how private,
Well,
private construction projects might have been more efficient, you know?
Mhm.
If you did this at Stanford campus, there's the ability to be able to do, you know, things more efficiently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, like the CBOC is to the oversight of spending of the funds that are released, correct? We're not choosing what's getting released. That's a step before us. Seems like that's the issue, is they chose the wrong thing.
Yeah, so
Arguably.
our job is just to question whether that was the right use of taxpayers' funds and notify the taxpayers of what's going on. And that you're right, that's all we can do. That's our only role here, is to just discuss it, bring it to light,
Mhm.
and let people decide, you know, let the voters decide on the next bond whether they want to give more money. I think we should recognize that they're here. I appreciate your point, Jit Paul, but we should recognize that we're paying VPCS, Van Pelt, I believe, what's the contract amount on a yearly basis? Is it 12 million a year? 12 million in total for the contract? No, how much is it roughly?
It's definitely not $12 million a year.
Okay. It's over $1 million a year though, isn't it? 2 million, about 2
somewhere
million
around
a
there.
year.
Yeah,
So about
somewhere
2
around
million.
there.
So we're 2.4 million. Thank you. So we're
Yeah,
paying
that sounds right.
professional bond program, construction program manager, $2.4 million a year so that we don't make mistakes and don't miss things. There is an accountability, right? $2.4 million is a lot of money to spend to get a $17 million lighting project done. That's just the oversight. So we're paying, the taxpayers are funding professional oversight. And so I don't accept that, you know, maybe the options weren't thought out, or maybe it just,
The construction company can only understand all the projects that are on the table. They still have to wait for a decision
Right.
made by another party.
And
So,
sorry.
yeah.
And guys, we still we don't even know. We're talking about a hypothetical. We don't even know if we're knocking any buildings down right now.
I was going to make the same point. Let's remember, nothing has been approved yet. And if the
Right.
Board of Trustees wants the data point on any projects that are proposed, that a building is going to be demolished, we can certainly supply that.
but the point is not that. It's not a hypothetical that some buildings could be torn down, and the discussion was not to do lighting upgrades on buildings that potentially could be torn down. That's what we're talking about. Right? So a more appropriate plan would have been, okay, we've done the facilities master plan, it's now approved. We see that 14 of the 18 sites aren't going to have buildings torn down. Let's go do the LED retrofit on those. No question, we're not going to waste money there. But the 6 or the 4 or the 3 or the 7, where we might, because in the facilities master plan, which you guys managed, says, well, we're going to replace this building and this building. Let's table those.
Well,
We will
maybe.
save that money. And yes,
But
it's
we don't-
hypothetical that we might not do it, but we might do it.
Or we might do other ones.
Might do it.
Or, and in the meantime, I can also see the other side of it, which is, it's been how many years since this bond was passed?
3 years.
Why haven't we done anything with the money?
Well, that's a whole
we're
nother
finally-
topic.
but we're finally, like, these are projects, like, we can actually get some work done. It's small on the scale of what the projects will be, but at least work is being done and upgrades are being made. I'm not saying it's completely worth it. I'm not saying like it's not, we shouldn't take into account what your point is.
Yeah.
But I think it's also the decision-making process, right? Who's making the decisions, which it is the board, when the time of the decisions happen. And Van Pelt can only do so much when decisions are.
But they could bring potentially more options to the board
Like
for
to-
consideration.
That's
Yeah.
like we are, but they still would have had to either wait, which would have put things on hold. And maybe that would have pissed off, excuse my language, would have made that campus angry for that having that part of their project done in their facility. That I think, maybe there's some. And again, these building projects are going to take 2 to 3 years to probably get demolished and new buildings built. There is a time factor delay that comes with construction that is part of that process.
Sure. I just bring it back to the fact that the lighting project was discussed. It was $17 million, which is a lot of money. It's $1,200 per lighting fixture replaced in the district. It's a lot of money to spend. There was a specific discussion about staging it so that we didn't waste money. And all I'm doing is highlighting that point. I'm not questioning whether lighting is good or bad. That's the board's call to make, absolutely. But were they presented with the best option to phase this out so that we're not wasting taxpayers' money, $1,200 a fixture, on something that might be torn down? That's the only point I'm making.
Is it not a similar approach though, what we did with like air conditioning, which is we're putting in temporary air conditioning for certain,
Maybe it is.
but in the meantime, I'm kind of happy my kid has air conditioning.
Yeah,
So
and it's gonna be for 3 years. 3 years, right? 2 to 3 years is a long time for kids not to have AC. I mean, lighting is one.
Well,
thing.
right, let's not go to AC though. We're talking about lighting. If you want to change the topic of HVAC, I'm happy to go there too,
no,
but
it's a,
We're simultaneously done.
and it's a temporary.
no, they were approved at different times in front of the
They're
board.
running
But-
somewhat parallel.
But I think it's a good parallel to draw because we're not doing all the HVAC in one go, right? It's correct me if I'm wrong, about 70, $60 million of HVAC work. It's going to be stretched over 5 years, correct? 4 to 5 years.
And it's
So
already
the-
installed in some places that might go.
So the district is already very capable of staging a project, stretching it out over multiple years. I mean, you could argue, guys, why are we stretching HVAC over 4 to 5 years? By the time we get to year 4 and 5, the construction costs are going to be so much higher. That was the point you just made about the lighting. Oh, we can't stage it out. The construction costs could go up dramatically. Well, we're staging.
We can sit here and we can sit here and do this for hours, but the HVAC project, because you have to shut down entire campuses to be able to do them. You can't shut down entire campuses. You can't shut down the whole district.
Perfectly
You can't.
legitimate reason. I totally get it.
Yeah.
My point is just that if you can stage out HVAC, you can stage lighting.
I don't
You
even
can,
think,
you definitely, they're very different projects.
as the campuses are unavailable.
But it's
They're all projects being done during in the summer. Right?
over 4 to 5 years, right?
All the HVAC projects have to be done in the summer and they
My
have to be
point is,
shut
why
down.
couldn't you have done lighting over 4 years?
Because we can't get fixtures to replace fixtures that go out
Yeah,
anymore.
they're banned in California now, so you can't replace. You have to. The lights that go out.
Okay, but the point they just made is it's only 4 buildings out of 100 in the district, so there's plenty of inventory of stuff to maintain those. Okay, I think we've talked round and round about this. I am happy to do so. Thank you, Chip Paul. Okay.
Of course, the board is committed to making sure that the taxpayers' money is spent as efficiently as possible. And Carl, you are right. This was a discussion at the board level. And the request was to sequence the schools so that they would come at the back end of the project. And, the timing may or may not be working out. I do want to stress, though, that there's been no decision made about a school or a building being torn down. So that has not happened. So if you would like to put it in your report about something that hasn't happened yet, that's okay, but it has not happened. And I also want to point out that each school site is the cost of lighting at each school site is variable. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's not the same for each one. And when we're talking about a building replacement, if any of these one building replacements, they would be one building on a site of multiple buildings. So it would also only be part of that. So I just want to make sure that, it's not something that the board takes lightly, but there are a lot of variables that go into these project planning. And yes, perhaps we could have been presented with a more phased rollout and we could have had that for discussion. And it's not something that we had in there. I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you for bringing it up. But I also want to say that, I think I can say this on behalf of the board because of the discussions that we had there. There's a big commitment to making sure that our taxpayers' money is spent well. And I think we're going to continue to do that. And it is a complicated process. And I think you're all realizing that going through this
Yeah.
discussion tonight. Thanks.
Yeah, and I appreciate that comment, Mike, and you're right. The magnitude of it may end up being small, but our job is oversight of every dollar of the 298 million. So, and that's important, but appreciate the sentiment there. And I think, my comment back to you would be you're spending $2 million a year on professional program management. Lean on those folks to give you better options if you want them. You're spending a lot of money for that, so use it. Okay. Anybody else have anything they wanted to cover on 5? Oh, we didn't talk about the site tours, but yes, Olivia. Oh, I'm okay. Great. So let's do this. Let's quickly on this topic review the site visits, and that'll be the committee readout, and then we'll take public comment. Does that sound good? Okay. So part of this Measure S was the CBOC's opportunity to do one of the things that's listed on in our bylaws, which is to inspect work to make sure that it's being done properly. And so we had the opportunity to look at HVAC upgrades and lighting upgrades at 4 campuses over the last 4 or 6 weeks or so. We successfully visited 3 of the 4, which was Taft, Hoover, and Roosevelt. And I was able to make all 3. Rick, I think you made 2.
2 of them.
And Janet, you were at one of them and one that got canceled. Yeah. Anything you want to share from your visits?
No.
It was clear, it was concise. Thank you for giving us the detailed tour. Being not an expert in the field, what I was looking at, I thought was amazing from when my kids went to district school, which was many years ago. But it was really good to see the understanding of the staff and the needs of how that equipment needs to work. And if it doesn't work, what's going to happen? And how there's so much more control to what is in our schools today than there ever was. It's not just flipping a light switch anymore. So it was really good to see. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I also want to thank Martin and Nick for organizing and running these tours, and the work looked great. I mean, very professional, obviously, top-notch quality. It really looked like we didn't see the before in those schools. We only saw the after. But yeah, I mean, was great.
It was impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so
I have one question on
oh
that.
yeah, Jit Paul.
There are, I hate to say this, but there are
Is your mic on, Jit Paul? I have to keep reminding you.
there are some sites with moving pools where the accordion is ripped and the teachers are duct taping and they don't even have duct tape. They're using just regular tape to get it going and they didn't know who to call, what to do.
Oh, you're referring to the
moving pool,
temporary.
the hosing units coming out of that.
So you're talking about the portable.
Yeah, the portables.
Okay, yeah, so if that's happening, they've not submitted a work order to get that replaced.
Some of the teachers don't know what to do and they're taping it together.
They can submit a work order and we
Okay.
take care of it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll tell them.
I do believe that is the actual appropriate use of duct tape, is it not? Masking tape. Yeah. Okay. So this was just to clarify, we visited where the permanent construction was done. We didn't see the portable stuff, but thank you for the comment, Jit Paul. Okay, we have public comment. Olivia, please.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Robel. So I wanted to touch on this. Well, first of all, I want to thank Carl. Your point is spot on, right? Nobody would spend $1,200 to replace light bulbs and then possibly tear down their house, right? So these kinds of things are not only egregious, especially when you're paying, as you said, $2.4 million a year to Van Pelt, but it's not $2.4 million. It's $4.8 million because you pay interest costs. That money is financed over decades. So the real cost, double the cost because you have to pay interest. So that's like it's even worse than 2.4. It's 4.8. And yeah, honestly, they should be fired for if they're not catching a basic. That's a pretty obvious thing. No other person, if it's your own money, would do that. And I think the important point is that kind of thing needs to be highlighted in the annual report. And I mean, if it's not to be blunt, I'm going to blast it over social media because this is out. The whole lighting thing is a boondoggle, right? 17 million for lights that never pay back. And Jorge Quintana writes a press release saying it saves 212,000 a year. Well, but unfortunately, he forgot to mention it costs 17 million to save 212,000. I mean, it's so prejudicial and biased. It's anyway. So I disagree with Mike Wells when he says there's any focus on spending taxpayer money well. It's all about reducing freeing up operating dollars, which are different than bond dollars, as we know. And that's the board's focus. And I don't think it's appropriate for Mike Wells to tell you, Carl, and the rest of the CBOC what you can or cannot put in the report. Let me rephrase that. It's not appropriate. I don't think it's not appropriate. You get to write whatever you want. It's your job to do that. You're independent. You're supposed to be independent, and you should write what you see. So those are two things on the lighting. And then both and then the other one I wanted to mention is the fact that, I don't know if this is the right spot, Carl, tell me if you've gotten to the financials yet. Have you gotten there yet or no?
We are not. That's 5.4 on the agenda,
Okay.
and we're in 5.2 right now on the agenda.
Okay, I'll speak to
If you
that one
want
later
to
then. I'll
have
speak to
comment
that
about
later.
the financials, yeah, please
Yeah.
share it during that section.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the public comment. Always welcome here. Any other discussion? Oh, I did want to ask one last thing that just came to my mind. There was a talk for a little bit about using some, I think it's even in the ballot initiative about workforce housing as a potential use of bond funds. I noticed, and the district office was going to be torn down, and we're going to build, we're going to build a new district office with housing. Is that still on the agenda? Or is that, because it doesn't show up in the facilities master? I'm not sure that it would, but, and it wasn't in any of the proposals that were put in front of the board. So is there still a discussion of that? Because I noticed that the lighting in this building hasn't been retrofitted yet. It must be, is it last on the list or? Oh, okay, all right.
There's no discussion on it. We're still not,
Yeah,
we have
there's
not
no
made any
agreement.
recommendations.
Nothing. So nothing is, it didn't make it into any of the priorities. So the assumption was not the, yes, my assumption was that it wasn't on the list for Measure S anyway, because it doesn't show up in any scenario. I mean, I guess the board could still put it on, of course, but okay, thank you. Okay, moving on then to Measure T. I see Will's not here this evening, which is fine. Is there any update on Measure T?
Yeah, I'll update you on
Okay,
that.
thanks, Martin.
Yeah, sure. So the projects remain on schedule for the construction of construction anticipated to start in mid-December. And that's for the 9 school sites that will be receiving the solar arrays.
So solar is, just to clarify, solar is the last part of Measure T, right?
Yeah.
And did you say November? No, what?
December, mid-December.
Oh, December, you're going to start construction.
Construction, correct.
Yeah, and you have a deadline, a hard deadline of
April
to
2026.
get it all done.
To get
Yeah.
all that, correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So currently, right now, we have approval of all the sites for the steel, except for 2, through DSA as well. We have 4 school sites that we have the steel in manufacturing now, and that's being done now. What else can I tell you about? Yeah, so I mean, it's knock on wood, everything's going through DSA, and hopefully we get those 2 last, which is Orion and Roy Cloud. They're our final ones.
Where you have to get approval
You gotta
to
get approval
proceed.
to proceed, correct.
Is there any risk on costs due to these approval delays, or is the cost already
Not
negotiated
currently.
on the contracts, or?
Not currently.
Okay. Is there any risk to the April deadline?
No, so actually we have a couple of things that are in favor of us. There's a couple of NEM2 sites. I can't recall which ones right now, but there's sites that can go beyond the April if needed to. Obviously I forget right now which ones they are, but there are a couple of sites that we can go beyond the April and still meet the NEM2.
All right, thanks, Martin. Anybody have any questions about Measure T? solar. I guess by the time we meet again in roughly January, February timeframe, you'll be underway.
You'll be underway and I can update you then.
Okay.
Websites. Yeah.
Just a question on how this all works. So this is going to be the last project for
With the
Measure
solar
T?
project, yeah.
Will this be
Measure
the
T.
last Measure T
Measure T
project?
Correct.
And then what happens then? Do we like formally close Measure T?
Yes.
If there's money left, we transfer funds to Measure S? How does that?
I think there will be no money
There
left.
won't be any money.
Okay.
It'll be fully expended.
And I think when we talked at the last meeting briefly that the project might finish in this fiscal year, but it'll probably trail off some costs into next fiscal year. So we wouldn't be closing it out for potentially another fiscal year
Okay.
after this one, the formal closeout.
Okay.
Because
Thanks.
there will be some spend and some audit reports potentially into the next fiscal year. But yeah, it's the last project and it started in does anyone remember?
15.
2015 was it? It's on our report.
From
2015 was when Measure T bond was, so we're in the 10th year now. Yeah. Okay.
Years to the day since the election.
Yeah. Okay, that was 5.3. So now we're into 5.4. And the financial review happens just as a reminder in kind of two sections. 5.4 are things that we've asked the district to provide us on a regular basis so that we can provide our oversight. And then 5.5 is essentially the financial statements that we review. So just wanted to clarify that if there is going to be public comment, it can be shared in the right section of the agenda. So we are on 5.4.1. A is an attachment that shows the Measure T expenditures in the July through September period. Does anyone have any questions on that sheet of 48 expenses, which appear all to be related to the solar project? Nothing on that one? Okay, that takes us then to 5.4.1B. And this is all of the expenditures for Measure S in that same July through September period. And I think the total on this one is obviously a lot bigger because there's a lot more going on. I think there's $33 million of expenditures on this sheet. Anyone have questions about this one? One that I saw, if you're still looking, I kind of resorted it, so I apologize. It's not in the same order that you sent it to us, but there is a series of line items called Director Maintenance and Operations Lighting Retrofit is the name of the project. It's a weird name, so I just wanted to get some clarification. What is that project? Director Maintenance and Operations. Is that meant to mean? I thought maybe director was a typo, like it's supposed to mean the maintenance and operations buildings lighting retrofit.
Facilities, the Southland vendor facilities lighting retrofit. The facilities building. What they call it, director and operation.
It's the facilities and maintenance
The,
site, those buildings.
Okay, and
Next
it's just
slide.
called director,
Next, McKinley.
or is that just a typo, director? It's a weird name but to clarify, it is the facilities building essentially that we're talking about. It's just,
MOT.
okay,
Okay.
okay. It just has a weird name in here. I thought maybe we were paying the director of maintenance operations several $1 million, Martin. There's also a section called district-wide HVAC. What falls under that project? That's like $350,000. Because obviously we have sites for HVAC throughout this, but there's something called district-wide HVAC.
That was the work, the work done by Blatch Construction at the temporary HVAC unit. Temporary HVAC
Right. This is the installation.
installation.
And I
Oh,
think
okay,
Spot
so-
Cooler, the supplier, is also under district-wide HVAC climate control.
Okay, so when it says district-wide HVAC as the project, that specifically is spot cooler installation, temporary HVAC installation. Okay. Okay, got it. And there's another section called district-wide classroom climate control where the spot coolers are allocated. Is that right?
The spot coolers and the roller shades.
Okay. So that totals like $200,000 in purchases of spot coolers. Does that sound roughly in the ballpark? If I look at this sheet, it's about $200,000, and I don't really remember exactly what the board approved, but why is the installation by block construction of those spot coolers listed as $378,000? Does it really cost double the cost of the unit to install it?
Well, remember, there was some purchase and some rental that were separate.
Right, but the rental we know is being charged not to the bond.
Yeah.
That's going to the general fund.
But I'm saying there was some that we purchased that are in here and their rental cost, so it's not double the cost. The install was for all of them, the purchase and the rented.
Right, but the purchase was 200,000. The rented units was like 70,000 or something. It was a smaller portion of the total, correct? Because it was only for the 4 school sites that were getting that summer, we're getting the permanent HVAC where we rented, correct?
Correct.
So it does seem like 300 and what did I say? $380,000 to install 200,000, or let's call it $250,000 of spot coolers. Does that not seem excessive?
No, the quantity, I forget what the quantity was of how many.
But it doesn't
units
matter if we
I mean,
bought
it was
one
in every
for
classroom
$1. Should it cost
throughout the
$2
district.
to put in the $1 cooler?
I don't think that's accurate math. I'd have to go back and look.
Well, I mean,
But
I'm
it
just
wasn't-
looking
it's
at the
not
sheet.
double.
What was the purchase price then of the spot?
This report is the expenses for this time period, correct, Erica?
Yes, from July.
Okay.
to the 9th.
So we spent there was more spent on spot coolers than this previously. These are just the ones that were paid for in this time period, and this is the install cost that Block had for. This might have included previous ones that were purchased. This is all of the install for the entire district wide is included in that block price.
So why don't you tell us then how much we spent in total for spot coolers and how much in total we spent for installation of the spot coolers? And maybe you don't have it at your fingertips. That's fine.
Yeah, no, we can get that. We can get that to you the next meeting, Carl.
900,000 in purchases of spot coolers. Is that what the board approved in that purchase rental? 610 in purchases, and how much in rentals then? Okay, so 800,000 roughly. Okay. So 370,000 to install those spot coolers that seems reasonable? I mean,
yeah, it's not just plug it in. You have to hook it up to a piece of ductwork. In a lot of the classrooms, we had to create vents out the windows and then create any electrical that had to be installed to support them. So yes.
And a lot of those removal of existing windows had hazardous material that we had to contain. So a lot goes into doing that.
I mean, not to call you out, Martin, but you were very proud that Alex, your maintenance guy, went through the North Star rooms and put the coolers in himself. Remember, cut the holes in the windows, put the vents in, and it was like you were proud of the fact that he got it done quickly, and they had coolers in those rooms.
Correct.
Did we pay block construction to do the rooms that he had already installed them in?
No.
So it's fewer because the district maintenance staff installed a bunch of them yourself,
They
correct?
installed 6 at North Star.
Okay, just those were the only ones out of the
Six,
whole.
6, and then you had 2 at Wood Cloud.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a small number.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think as a follow-up, if you wouldn't mind just presenting back to the CBOC at the next meeting, the total cost of the total number of units acquired and the total installation cost. And I think I'm sure you did your homework and it was the right contractor do the work, but let's just get clarification on it because I don't want to be misstating the numbers because this is just 1 3-month period.
And it was competitively bid within their GMP. So there was a whole process to get numbers for that.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep, fire away.
What are the negative charges that are like the red?
Those are the reversal of accruals. When the payments, when the invoices come in this fiscal year, we have to reverse the accruals. Because the expenditures happened in the last fiscal year.
Okay, so it trues up this portion of the time period for that.
So it zeroes out basically for this fiscal.
Okay.
Any other questions on the Measure S expenses? Let me know when you get a hand raised if there's public comment. Thank you, Olivia. On this topic or okay, because we're about to move on. So was there public comment on this one?
Yes, yes, Carl, thank you. So the other thing I wanted to highlight regarding the Measure S related to the expenses. So the bond, the Series A bond of $90 million was floated in June 2023, so almost 2.5 years ago. Less than half of that money has been spent so far. So this is another example of disregarding the taxpayers altogether, contrary to what Mike said. So, and I asked Mike Wells several months ago, why was the bond floated so early in advance of having clear projects that needed to be funded in the near term? His answer was, quote, well, it's just nice to have. You never know. That was the answer I got. So it's kind of like, when if it's somebody else's money, who cares? Let's just have the money. And, we can all speculate why. We never got that was the answer I got, right? So why is that wrong? Number one, the taxpayers approved a $298 million amount, not 310, 330, whatever the amount's going to be with interest. You're not allowed to go float the bond and get interest. And then, of course, the taxpayers are paying even a higher interest rate because these bonds were floated at 4.2%, which is higher than they are now. You're not getting that interest from the county. So it's a total disregard. It's a very expensive ploy and a bad idea. You wouldn't float money, get a mortgage in advance of buying a house and start the interest clock. So that's a total disregard of taxpayers just to have the money. The second issue, why it's wrong, is as I've sent to Janet and to Carl, it's illegal. So read IRS code, and I've talked to a partner at a law firm. IRS code, I gave it, I think it's 128. You can't be doing that and you have less than half the money's been spent so far 2.5 years later. That's a big problem for tax-free status on these bonds. And I have spoken with the SEC about it as well. So, and I strongly suggest you I know this is not spending money on bonds, but it's related to the bond oversight. And I think it's important that you illustrate or put in your report pertaining to the 2023 year that the bond was floated prematurely without clear understanding and that the board president is doing it because it was nice to have the money. So that's a very important thing for the public to know. And I will put that in my social media posts. So it's, and the other, so those are there's 2 reasons why it's illegal. So the IRS code, as well as the violating the amount of money that the taxpayers are actually, that you're actually going to get. You're not going to get 298. You're going to get more because of the interest. So, and of course, the taxpayers are going to pay way more because of the interest clock starting sooner. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Robel, are you suggesting that the board spend the money faster?
I'm suggesting that it be disclosed, right? That some of these things you can't do anything about. I'm suggesting that the bond oversight committee share with the public that the bond money was floated prematurely and it's costing taxpayers millions of dollars. And then I think it would be wise for somebody to check with a lawyer, a tax attorney, a partner, whom and I've done that already, and I'm told Carl I'd be willing to share the name, but I suggest you guys on your own find out what the path forward is, given what looks to me like an illegal activity. It's not an arbitrage bond, but the rules around arbitrage bonds still apply with IRS Code 128. So, and it's also a violation of the covenant with the taxpayers about how much money you're actually getting at the district level. And you didn't even have any money earmarked for anything, according to Mike Wells. It was just fun to have Mike. And I think these evasive answers are totally unacceptable. Carl asked about workforce housing, and you guys stared at each other and didn't give him a straight answer. What's going on with workforce housing? You should explain it. And you should explain what you were doing, why you floated those bonds. Give straight answers, guys. That's what's so frustrating about you. You're so evasive.
Mr. Robel, thank you. I think we got the point of your comments.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah,
So
we're in
my
the open
comment is-
discussion time, so.
My comment is, Mr. Robel, if you are going to send out a inquiry or a statement to this committee, I, as one who received your email, and I ignored it because it was not sent out to the complete committee. Please do not single me out. If you want to voice your opinions, this committee it sits here as a whole, not as individual, two people who you sent it to. I am nor the chair nor the vice chair. So please, in the future, please send it out to the whole committee or address us during this meeting, which you have done tonight. Thank you.
That actually brings up another thought I had, which is there actually is no way to reach the committee. We don't have an email address or, oh, I know he has your email. Yeah. Or yeah.
And my home number,
Well,
which
maybe
is
we should,
appropriate.
I know. Okay. So moving on to anything else on 541. All right. 542. This is a section on the change orders. So opportunity to review those. And we have change orders for Measure T and S. Any questions or discussion on these? I did want to ask about, sorry to go back to spot coolers. It seems like it's a night to talk about spot coolers too. So there was a Measure S change order here that was approved by the board. It looks like on September 10th to rent spot coolers for these 4 school sites that were getting permanent HVAC installed for an additional $155,000. The original rental cost for the spot coolers was not charged to the bond. The whatever I can't remember the number you shared. Was it 200,000 or what was the number you said, Rick, for the original rental? 200,000, which the board directed that be used from general funds because it was not a facilities improvement renting spot coolers for a short term. It's not an asset or a facility improvement, which would qualify under the bond. But here we see $155,000 of rental charged to the bond. So I'm just curious to know more about the justification for putting this rental cost into the bond fund when the initial rental cost was not a bond expense.
As you noted, we did move it to other funding from the bond for the original rental that was happening pre-project. These units were kept longer to protect the project in case it ran over and the school site was not available for the first day of school. So it was directly related to where we were at in the project at the time that we had to extend the rental.
But if the original rental was charged to your checking account, to make an analogy here, why did you decide that the rest of the rental should go to your money market account? What was the justification for putting the rental under bond funds when the initial rental was not?
I just explained that, Carl.
That the project was delayed?
The risk of delay based on where we were at that point in time caused us to extend the rental agreement to ensure that those rooms would have conditioning when.
Sure. I mean, I think the justification is completely valid for that you need the air conditioning. The board said air condition the rooms, but how do you justify spending facilities improvement money on a short-term 2 or 3 month, or not even 1 or 2 month rental of an air conditioner? It doesn't seem like it's an appropriate use of bond money. And
There's rentals in all sorts of bond-related projects during the time of construction.
Yes, but we're not talking about a portable classroom for, what was it called, interim housing that Jen asked about, or a generator that's needed to power a building during construction. This is purely a expense to provide comfort to students, which we all want. Don't get me wrong. Of course, we want but it was a comfort need for students. It was unrelated to construction. The only reason it was needed is because construction was delayed, right? So I still don't get how that's a capital expense that would be classified under bond spending. Did you guys get a legal opinion from DWK on whether you could charge that to the bond?
We did.
Would you share it with the committee? Okay. Sure, I understand that. But again, can you give us any more detail on the thought process that you went through, knowing that the first rental was paid for not with bond funds? What was the thought process that we would pay for this part of rental with bond funds?
Because this occurred during the project was at risk of not completing on time.
But the other air conditioners are being used during the project, correct? The other rentals. Are there rentals in other parts of the district or just these sites?
Just the 4 sites that had AC this summer put in.
And so you're saying that
no other rentals through spot cooler.
Okay, because the HVAC project was delayed, we needed to rent them longer.
That is correct.
We were already renting the units and paying for it out of general fund, right? I'm still at a loss to understand the thought process of saying, let's reclassify the rental now as a capital outlay under facilities improvement. You're saying it's,
Construction started.
but let's say I was renting a water cooler, for the district office, and before construction started, the rental of the water cooler should then be paid for out of capital improvement if I start redoing the building?
You need to get a porta potty for your construction crew working on your.
Yeah, but these rental of these units was not a part of the construction project. It was simply to provide comfort until the project started.
Extension once construction was started, so they can earmark the funds towards the capital expenses being construction fund. They've only done it from the point where they needed it due to a delay on funds.
I think that you can only justify a rental cost in a construction project if the rental is necessary to complete the project. And the rental of these was not it wasn't even related to the construction project. It was a comfort cooling, temporary cooling measure for a classroom. So how do you justify spending that money from your capital project fund?
So my question would be, would those units have not been there had the project been completed? No, they would have been removed. So therefore they were needed.
Well, they weren't needed to complete the project.
No, but they were
They were needed because the project had a delay, which had nothing to do with the accounting of the money you spent on the coolers, right?
But it did have to do with I see your point, but it did have to do with the fact that they existed. So they would have not been there. And then now because the project's delayed and this project is in the process, it's going to be in the process, they need to keep them. So therefore that becomes a liability of the project.
You wouldn't take away the porta potty.
Right.
The porta potty is part of the construction project. These aren't part of the construction project.
The porta potty is part of a permitted process to have at your site.
Right,
doing
but these
construction.
spot coolers had nothing to do with the construction project. It was a separate
But
contract.
It's like saying.
It's to
well,
provide comfort,
you could say
unrotted
that
to the
porta
project.
potty's not necessary. You could say,
Okay.
okay, go to the Home Depot and use your bathroom, but it's still the same thing, that if the construction got delayed, you're still gonna keep the. porta
But the
potty there.
the
You're gonna take-
the air
if
conditioners
you
weren't
didn't finish on your.
the spot coolers weren't
It's not
rented.
necessary for the construction to use the restroom.
The spot coolers weren't rented for the construction project, Jit Paul.
The spot coolers were providing a comfort for kids before.
Right,
construction.
which has nothing to do with the construction project.
Correct.
It was providing the service that the construction was being done for, correct?
But that doesn't make it a capital expense to provide air conditioning to kids. It's not a capital expense. I think we should do it,
If
but
your lighting's not working on or your plumbing's not working on your home. Okay, and you still have to use a porta potty, would you like all of a sudden remove it just because the plumbing isn't working?
I don't think, I guess an analogy I would use is you've rented a car and you want to, once your garage is built, you don't need the rental car anymore. The contractor is now late on the building the garage, so you have to extend your rental car contract. Are you going to put that into your mortgage?
You're gonna put it into your construction
Your
cost.
construction.
Okay.
It was extended
You're gonna.
directly from
Yeah.
construction, right?
Right.
So then
If you-
it's
if you're-
related to construction.
Yeah.
If you're stuck in a meeting in
I get his
New
point.
York and you have to
It's
extend. the
related
meeting, and you have rental or hotel costs, you're still gonna bill it to your company.
I'm not going to capitalize it though. It's not a capital expense. Sure, you have to spend the money. I agree, but it's not the taxpayers should not have their bond money going towards a 1 month air conditioner rental. That's not a facilities improvement. That's a long-term investment and capital asset that improves the school for the 30 years that we're going to be paying for these bonds.
So
It's
to your,
providing
I'm
the
happy
service
to-
that the
I'm happy to
construction is
table it.
being delayed.
I'm happy to
No,
table
to
it until
your
we get the
point.
legal opinion.
to your, so going to your point, it's a construction cost. To your point is should bond money be used for that expense? And
Because
bond
the
money,
expense is unrelated to the construction. That's my point.
and so that's where the disagreement is, because the cost is related to the construction because it wouldn't have been needed had the construction not been delayed. So it is related to the construction. Now, there can be, you can question that, but it wouldn't have been needed. That
Sure,
expense wouldn't
yeah,
have been needed
but
had
they-
the construction not, and so therefore it is a construction cost.
It's providing the same service.
The air conditioners aren't facilitating construction. They're mitigating a discomfort that's caused by the delays, correct? They're mitigating a discomfort that's caused by the construction delay.
And
it
that
make that
construction was,
and that makes them an operating expense, not a facilities improvement expense. That's my point. But as I said, I'm happy to wait for DWK's legal opinion and we can discuss it again.
It's not done. When you take away the restroom.
This isn't, you're not,
Let's say it was a portable restroom.
He's talking about the
You take away
expense of-
Portable
who
restroom.
pays for it?
Then
Yeah.
the construction's not
I know you
done.
keep talking about the porta potty, but that's related to the construction. This is unrelated to the construction.
The restroom restoration at a school district, and they needed to get one of the ones they use in Parks and Rec with a pull-up one for students to use.
That would be an operating expense, definitely.
Operating, but the restroom's still not done. Should we then take that away?
No, you don't take it away. You just continue to fund it under your operating
You
budget.
have
Of
to
course.
fund it because
Yeah,
It's still providing the same service. as
Sure.
Construction.
but it's not contributing to the value of the construction and thus it should not be a capital expense under the bond.
It's contributing by providing the same service that the construction's being delayed from. Or for, I don't know how to word that.
Yeah.
properly.
I know it's a tricky thing and I admit I'm not, but
Are you arguing that interim housing, like,
no, that's
Really
different
wouldn't
because
be
that
needed?
is related directly to this is just related to comfort of kids in a classroom. And you could have done the construction without providing the coolers, correct?
I don't know, what were the circumstances?
The cooler, yeah,
Fine.
the district.
Was it hot?
So
did it go?
I'm just saying you could have done HVAC in these schools and not rented air conditioning. The district wanted to rent air conditioning to provide cooling until the construction was done, but the construction is unrelated to the rental. The rental was to cool the classrooms while the construction was happening. So
It's delayed.
the difference, the interim housing, you have to do it in order to do the construction. This was a comfort expense that was chosen to be done to keep the classrooms cool until the permanent construction. It's optional. It didn't have to be done.
If it was
So that
hot,
makes
then
it an
you would
operating
still-
expense.
If it was still hot, you would be still providing the same level. So should they got fans instead? I mean, that would have been okay. Well, sorry, kid, you gotta live with it. Just deal with fans for now. And it's, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I get it.
I do understand. Again, I do understand what you're saying.
And the initial rental was 200,000. This is 150,000. It's a big portion of the initial rental. It's almost doubling the cost again, this extension. It's not like we rented for 200,000 and it was a $10,000 extension to cover the extra time. I wouldn't be making a big deal about it, but it's almost, doubling the cost of the rental. And the board directed the district to account for the initial rental as an operating expense. So they saw that this was not a capital improvement.
Do we
So-
have that number, the initial
Yeah.
rental operating amount?
That was
Something?
what Brick shared with us. It was 200,000 roughly was what was 200 something
Oh.
thousand was the initial, I think was it 2 months, 2 or 3 months? And then you needed an additional 2 months additional 2 months was needed.
Hmm.
And I just think that even if there's the legal opinion says, yeah, you can do this, to charge the first part to an operating expense and then to charge the second part to the bond without explaining why that decision was different. And you do have an explanation that you shared. It's just insufficient to convince me. But let's see what DWK has to say.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what the lawyers said, because the question was directly asked and directly answered, it sounds like. And you must have had enough uncertainty that you went and asked the lawyers. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing what the lawyer's analysis was. And I think you're making a good case. I think there's good cases on both sides, and I don't know the answer, but yeah, let's see that legal opinion, and maybe that'll give us some comfort.
The only challenge is just to clarify that obviously DWK is paid for by the district. So it's their fiduciary responsibility to provide legal advice to the district, not to us. Right? So they're being paid by the district.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see what they say.
Providing legal justification for
Yeah.
why they made the decision.
I'm not sure.
I'm not saying that they're going to make something up or lie about it. I'm just saying that.
Well, of course, they're paid by the district, but
Yeah.
they're going to give their professional opinion, I assume.
Of course.
So I'd like to see what that is.
Yeah, and I'll add it to the agenda for the next meeting. Let me make a note of that.
Even if it's a justification of it, they still allowed to defend their argument.
Of course. Yeah. I'm just saying they don't work for us. It's not a legal opinion for the CBOC. That's all I was clarifying.
We don't have to agree with their statements.
There was one other follow-up item from our previous discussion on the lighting that was, I think, you guys were going to come back with, what was that? Was it? It'll come to me. Sorry, it was something that we talked about as a follow-up where you guys didn't have the number handy, but you're going to come back with it. Okay, 5. Anything else on the change orders, or we can go to 543, no bid contracts? Any questions on 543?
I had to look up what an industrial hygienist was.
Yeah.
What does the industrial hygienist do, Nick?
Statement.
Monitoring. Okay.
Industrial hygienist.
Hazmat has a.
Okay, 544, new projects approved by the board in the period, none under Measure T. Architects for Measure S, HVAC next phase. Questions on that? Okay, 5.4, or wait, yeah, new project spending, current litigation, public disputes. We didn't receive anything, so presumably there are none. And then we go into 5.5, which is sorry, did we miss any public comment, Olivia, or?
I had one comment on 5.4.3.
Oh, yeah, back to 5. No hands up. Okay. Oh, we do have a hand up. Okay, 5. So yeah, we're gonna go back to 5.4.3.
Annual software service, that's not an operational cost. Like, wouldn't that be? If it's an annual? No?
It's the software used for the accounting for the bond program. Out the bond.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, thank you. Good question.
All right, if there's public comment on anything in 5.4, we always are welcome public comment. Please
Yeah,
keep it civil though.
I just wanted to say that underscoring what Carl was saying about the 155,000 spot cooler rental, this is a perfect example of why you need your own attorney. If anybody wants to take a bet, the DWK is going to say everything is wonderful. And if there is any example that anybody's aware of, maybe Carl, if you want to ask Mike or John Baker, if there's ever been a situation where DWK has said there's been a problem with anything, I bet you the answer is no. So two attorneys they'll always will have two different opinions. So it doesn't mean that it's right just because DWK. So I would encourage you to get your own attorney. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That takes us into 5.5. And let's start with 5.5A.
The first report is measure bond fund income and expense summary report. It shows the actuals for fiscal year 25-26 from July 1st through September 30th. Revenue, there's no revenue for this period posted. The actuals are only for 46,657 for Measure T. The remaining fund balance for Measure T is 1 million. I separated the funds. Fund 40, there was no expenditure, and the remaining balance is 12.6 million. The total expenditures of all funds is 215.1 million. Please let me know if you have any questions.
All right, keep going. Thank you.
The next report, it's a report from our new financial system. We transitioned to Frontline ERP. This report replaces the board report that you are used to see in the past, financial statement report. This is just the supporting document for the previous report that I presented, showing the actuals 46,657 for Measure T. Any questions?
Nope. Okay, thank you.
5.5C, this is the usual accountability report, consolidated projected cost report, showing the projects on the left side, the revenues in the columns and expenditures, comparing the revenue and expenditures. On the last page, you can see it's 228.8 million, and then we spent $215.1 million. And there's remaining budget, but this one includes the both funds, the Fund 40 and Measure T fund. Any questions?
All good. Thank you.
Five point five B, Measure T sources and budget report. This is also a report from accountability system. And you can see the funds listed, the local funds 121, 25, and we added the Fund 40 special reserve fund cap, the $13 million. And it shows again at the bottom of the last page, the 228.8 million revenue. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you.
The next report is the 5.5E Measure S. This is a Measure S report from the new financial system from the district. Financial statement report. This is just a summary of the expenditures of the actuals. You can see the classified salaries and benefits. Now we can see the bond director, including the bond director costs.
Yeah, so question there. So this is the it's hard to just, well, in that second section there, right? So the financial statement at the top, it says fiscal year 25-26 through September, right? So this fiscal year started July 1, correct?
Yes.
So we're one quarter in.
Yes.
And so the budget amount here is the budget for the year, or
this is just the adopted budget that for the known contracts that I know.
or the contract?
Yes.
So how would that apply on a salary of someone who works for the district who's working on the bond? How is the budget determined? Is it their annual cost or?
Yes, that's the annual cost that that's automated. I just budget whatever the system automatically calculated.
Okay. So, and then the actual amount is obviously the one quarter's expense.
So it shows the budget is basically 175,989 for the bond director and 65,699 is for the accountant.
Okay.
And
And
then-
what's the 10,000 above it for?
I just budgeted because I thought we have some timesheet pay maybe in the future. It's just the budget. It's not.
Okay, there's no expense on
No.
that. So that's if a district employee were to clock
Yes.
some time against the bond, you would
Yes.
account for it there?
Yes.
Okay. And the 175 is a new bond position that for Measure S oversight?
Correct.
Okay.
It was an existing position that has been filled now.
Was
We-
existing,
we- we-
this was the
yeah.
Don Diaz
This is the
position?
Don Diaz position.
Okay, and who's it filled by? Martin, congratulations, you've been promoted. All right.
And the rest.
How long was, I'm sorry, just quick, how long was the position open? Like a couple years, 3 years or 2 years? Okay. It took you that long to qualify, Martin, for the position or? The it's a probationary period. Okay. So that's the salary and the benefits, and I just wanted to clarify. So that's the annual budget and then the quarterly expense.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
The actuals are if you add the classified salaries and the benefits together, it's about 90,000.
So,
Total.
Martin, do you keep your old job as well, or is this your new full-time job then, being the bond director?
It's going to be his full-time job. We're backfilling his
Okay.
position.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you for the clarification.
And the majority of expenses are in the 6,000 object codes, the 16.9 million. And the total expenditures are $17 million
And
for the quarter.
the under the capital outlay, 6,200 buildings and improvements of, that's the primary area that's capturing the bond expense?
Yes.
Okay, got it. And what's the $118,000 under land? 6,100. Oh, it's an encumbrance. It's listed as under the land category. Did we buy some property for Martin to live on as well? No, I'm just kidding. Don't think you can buy any property for $118,000 around here.
I have to. Was that the Protec expenditures? The 118,230. I have to look it up. What's that?
The 144 above it for rentals, that's the 144 we were talking about for the spot coolers, I'm assuming, or the number isn't quite a match, but
Which one?
sorry, I'll let you finish 6,100, then I'll ask you about the other one. So 6,100, you need to look up what the land acquisition cost was.
Yes, I will look that up.
Okay. And then two above that is 5,600, which is the rentals, leases, and repairs. And that's the $144,000, also listed as an encumbrance. And I guess the 100,000 below that, could you just briefly explain what those are?
That's the DWQA expenditure contract.
So there's $100,000.
Is that just the, yes, encumbrance. It's not expenditure yet.
So there's a contract with DWK to provide bond legal services for $100,000. And as they charge against it, it would show up as an expense or?
Yes.
Okay. And then how about the one above that, the rentals, leases?
I will need to look that up too. I know the 2,600, that's just the mobile modular portable for the bond director expense. And rentals. It must have been the spot cooler rentals that we charge Measure S.
Okay, it's a different number than the number we spent a lot of time on previously, but is there
Because it's a total, it's a summary of the 5,600, could be multiple encumbrances.
could you explain that maybe one more time? I didn't quite understand it. I
It's
apologize.
the summary of the 5,600s.
Oh, you mean the 5,600 account, you mean?
Yes. So
okay,
it's not just one, could be multiple vendors.
Says rentals, leases, and.
Yeah,
Yes.
but the rental cost we were just discussing on the spot coolers was 155,000. So, and this shows 144,000. It's a lower number than the number
Yes.
we were previously discussing that the
I
board
can look
approved.
that up for you as well.
Okay. Okay.
And just remember too, that the spot coolers that was approved, I believe, in September, last meeting in August or September, so it might not have even hit for payment during the first quarter timeframe, Carl.
So you're saying the encumbrance might be for the rental. We haven't had the expense of it yet. And the encumbrance amount doesn't need to match the approved amount because it might not be the actual invoice amount. You might have gotten approval for more than you actually need. I mean, that's fine. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying, yeah, okay. Okay, and then the 2,600 that was actually spent, you said that's like a construction trailer or something that, or office?
Oh, that's the bond director portable at Kennedy. Portable that we pay monthly.
Oh, okay. For
It's
the bond team
$600.
to use as an office?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Tell me what you mean by encumbrance. What is that?
That is the committed amount. We, we have the contract and we do the requisition and we encumber for that contract amount.
So
It's like you're setting aside the money. You haven't
Yes,
spent it.
yes.
You're setting it aside
Committed,
because it's
yeah.
been committed.
Yeah.
But will be spent, yes.
Committed, but not yet invoiced.
Okay. So so like that big number of under buildings and account 6,200, the $18.4 million. What is that a budget for the whole year or just for the quarter?
It is at the beginning of the year. It's a projected budget
For the
for the
whole
known contract that I
Based
know
on
that
what
based
has
on the
been approved,
encumbrances.
so-
Yes, based on what has been approved so far.
and for any particular period of time or just
Just for the encumbrances, to cover the encumbrances.
So let's say,
Okay.
just as an example, we signed a 3-year contract to do something, and they were going to invoice us annually $1 million each year on a $3 million contract. So in this fiscal year, you would encumber $1 million, correct?
Yes.
And as the invoices are paid on the million, the actuals would take away the encumbrance, essentially, would be
They're
replaced by
reducing
the
that-
actuals.
Yes.
And the actual spend might be more than $1 million, it might be less than $1 million, and that's going to be ultimately reconciled against the budget.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, Rick, the contract expense can be multiple periods, but what she puts in for the budget is just what's expected to be spent this fiscal year
this year
on those commitments.
And I'll also say what's known as of July 1.
When you create the budget.
Right, so HVAC projects that were already in that were going on during the summer are counted towards that, and other known projects. But come January or February, we may add additional projects after the implementation plan that we move forward with this year. So we'll revise the budget to reflect those.
Yes, I'm actually going to work on the revision of the budget.
Then once those are contracted, signed, and requisitions are created, for the example of $1 million for project X, then that'll become an encumbrance, and then as invoices come in, the encumbrances will be spent down per invoice.
And does the actual spend always end up meeting the budget then because the budget gets revised? If you see what I'm asking.
Yes, for this individual construction budgets, we don't revise. We would say we're either over or under. And we would have to make changes to the budget to accommodate for changes to, obviously under is not going to be the same as if we're over. We've had to transfer more money in or make other adjustments.
So in this report, just to set the stakes, because we're going to start spending a lot more money in Measure S, right? So in this report, in my example, we had a 3-year, $3 million contract. We were going to spend $1 million a year. Let's say in year 1, it comes in at 1.2 million. For whatever reason, you get approval from the board for the extra money. Will the budget then go up to 1.2 million, or will it just show 1 million was the budget and we ended up with 1.2? Not a great, we're over budget.
Change order.
So the budget just reflects, budget is kind of in this case, what we're saying is whatever's approved, we call budget. And yeah, and whatever's spent is actual, but they're going to match at the end of the day, unless we're underspent. Okay.
It does have adopted budget and revised budget. That's called.
Right.
Okay, I think that's helpful. I remember this came up a few years ago with Measure T. It's like, wait, why is the budget always changing? You should have a budget and then you spend against your budget, and at the end of the year, you either over or under. But this is a little different. This is the budget here means how much was approved to spend in that line item or that cost center. And it can change throughout the year. Okay, got it. Good question though.
Good. Okay.
Anybody else on, because I think is it the first time we're seeing this report?
Yes, it's the first time.
Yeah. So you know,
It's
I know we're
all,
already at 8 o'clock, but thank you.
overwhelming.
Thank you for spending time because it's different from the accountability
Yes, I
reports.
try to find a summary that it's easier to read, but it's difficult.
Okay, so the
Okay.
two follow-up action items are the two things that are actually marked no budget on the right side, which was the rental cost, why that was different, and then the was it the land, the $118,000 for land?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Olivia. Public comment?
Two things. So first, I think the point about the budget being kind of a moving target where it always kind of ends up being the actuals. I think when the trustees are going for the next bond, phase three, and the number of times I heard on time and on budget. Well, the on budget part at least means it's always going to be on budget or under budget, I guess in some sense. So I think it's important to alert the public about when people say that. The other thing I wanted to just ask about, so I very much appreciated the opportunity to charge my car for free using the electric chargers for quite a bit of time. And I did mention that at one point to Carl and I think to David Weekly that maybe a bunch of Teslas, people that can afford to actually pay for their electricity like me. And maybe it would make sense to actually, charge for it for people that park at the school. Because if you go there at Sunday night, you'll see all these Teslas, including mine. So, and I think it would be appropriate to charge and then actually use the money for some other purpose, like school supplies, or something for the teachers. So anyway, I don't know if that's been resolved or not, but I think it wasn't as of a while ago. So that's probably a lot of money as if you're installing the solar panels, it's a source of revenue. So maybe Carl, if you want to ask about that.
All right, thank you. Anything else on 55E? Okay, over to F.
55F, it's a Keystone Solutions report, transaction by fiscal year report, measure as expenditures by fiscal year as of September 30th, 2025. We can see the projects listed on the left side and each year cumulative expenditures. And then you can see a summary at the bottom for all years and showing the total spent. It's 41.7 million as of September 30th.
So, maybe I'm jumping the gun because there's 55G coming up as well, right? But to our earlier question on the report that we saw before, we know that the budget changes as projects are added and board approved amount. Rick, you mentioned for each construction project, we actually do track whether on budget or not, obviously, for the project. So is that the G report? Where would we see like, okay, if we approved for Clifford to get HVAC for $500,000, at the end of the day, the project cost 600,000 or it cost 400,000, where we compare the actual expense to the original approved contract. Which report shows that?
I think it's G.
Okay.
Or is G, do we update the budget on
Got
G
total-
too?
Total budget encumbered expenditures remaining and encumbered balance.
Does my question make sense when I'm asking?
Is that the original budget or the revised budget?
The total budget on 5.5G, it's the budgeted amount for cumulative budgeted amount as of 9/30/2025 for the non-contract, whatever was approved.
Okay,
Or
but
the total of-
if more money is, let's say there's a change order for $100,000, the board approves it. Does the budget get incremented up 100,000 then?
When I get a chance to change the budget, yes, I increase the budget as well.
So is there a report? I mean, Rick, you mentioned, hey, we measure each project. Is it on budget, below or above? Where is that made visible for us?
Yeah, the encumbered balance would show, but if it showed, does it show a negative? If it showed a negative, that
Well, it
would
wouldn't.
reduce.
Oh, okay. I'll let
It
you
would be-
answer.
For the 52.6 million, it's encumbered. The expenditures are 41.7 million. And the encumbered balance has been reduced to 10 million, 10.8 million.
Right, but if one of these project goes over budget and the board approves additional spending to cover that over, then you update the budget. So
Yeah.
how would we know what the amount spent was versus the original budget that was forecasted for the project?
I don't think it's on this one.
No, it's
This
not
is
on,
report.
yeah.
Still, original budget, changes to budget.
Because that's where you presumably track like your contractor performance, like were there a lot of change orders? I mean, because this will never show this. This will
No.
always reconcile in the end to
Yes.
say the budget equals the actual, correct?
Fine.
Okay.
The remaining budget doesn't show negative numbers. It wouldn't show we were on, we went over budget.
Because the budget would get adjusted.
It's all at zero, but it could show, highlight in red and say, okay, we're negative
I think
42,000.
there's another report.
Yeah, so there are different,
This one.
there's,
There's another report in Keystone that'll show that.
It doesn't show original. budget.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
it
budget,
doesn't show all the changes to the budgets.
Revised budget.
Yes.
Plus or minus percent at the end.
It's just a summary as it says, the report.
I'm just making a note of that. You can proceed. Yeah, I was going to suggest we add that to the list. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little complicated, right? Because back to my 3 million example, there's a $3 million contract. You're going to spend $1 million each year. Let's say after year one, the contractor has a change order, so it's 1.2 million. The board approves the change order. The budget gets updated to 1.2 million because that's how much we spent. Then the next year, I don't know. My example is not useful. Sorry.
Well, your example.
I mean, we'd
useful.
want to
It'd
see
be
like
also
for the
useful
whole
if you
project, what was the
you were
budget?
Getting charged too much for.
Yeah. That's my point. Is at the
Yeah.
end of the 3 years, could we say, hey, we originally planned to spend 3 million on this X,
And it went over
and
3.5.
it ended up being 4 or 5,
I
or
think
2,
that's
3.
information we should definitely have. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm
Very
trying to
useful.
say with
When you're
the.
over budget with these contractors or these projects.
So it's I guess the report we're after is project by project, original budget versus actual spend. And it doesn't matter the time period. It's just what was the contract and how much did we spend?
Mhm.
Right? Okay. Okay, noted, added. Was there anything else? Did we miss anything on F? And what's the difference, sorry, Erica, between F and G? They're both by project, by school site, right?
Yes, so there,
So is it just F is more deep? No. Yeah, what's the difference between F and G?
summary reports, the 5.5F shows the,
Oh, I see. It's over more
total,
periods.
yes,
F is total, or excuse me, G is cumulative for the entirety of the bond program. F is
Breaks it out by fiscal year.
fiscal year as of when.
Okay. Is there a way, Erica, to organize the report G so that it follows the same pattern as S? So S starts with construction, then it goes to Adelante, and then it goes to Taft. And I'm not even sure what order they're in, but G is in a different order. It starts with Roy Clifford and then goes to Roy Clifford. So there's no really, it's not easy to compare the two.
filter a different way. I just thought I show what's the total for each site.
Yeah. If there's a way to like
filter.
organize them alphabetically so they're both tracking to the same sites in the same order, it's easier to look at them
Okay.
side by side. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, anything else on F or G? Anyone?
Just have one, excuse me, clarification or question. So KIP is a charter school and we actually have a line item for KIP, which means we're doing charter schools or?
Yes.
Not charter schools, we are. I know we are, but I didn't know we had started them. Cause they are at the end of they're the only school we've done?
There must be some sites.
Yeah,
The lighting
the charter
company.
schools have received temporary AC or ACE units as part of it. It's still our property,
Right,
right?
right.
So we have done some things and planning for additional things at the charter. school.
right. They were going to be at the end of our,
Right,
our
for
cycle,
temporary
yeah.
air conditioning is already on.
Okay. That's the first time I've,
But the KIP, I guess to your point on G, KIP is the only item listed under KIP is lighting retrofit. But you guys said you hadn't done the charter schools yet for lighting, so I think your question is valid.
that's what I thought
So page 2 of the of G has KIP listed there, and then it lists KIP lighting retrofit. There's a budget amount, that's fine. But there's a negative expenditure. I don't know. Can you explain the KIP line for us? I think it'll be educational. Erica.
So the encumbrance was 1.1 million, and then the expenditure is 719 million, 719,000.
In this period, the period we're covering, which goes through
Yes.
9/30. But Nick, you told us we haven't done the charter schools yet. So what was the expenditure for?
okay.
Well, this is a material for KIP. You're saying this would be a material purchase? But
Their
okay.
comment was they were gonna do them last, so you're probably starting on them, is what you're saying?
Yes, we're finishing up Hoover, and then it'll continue with the charter schools.
Does it look like the right ratio to you? So there's 1.1 million set aside for KIP, 719,000 has been spent, 458 remains, right? So that's a ratio about $1 of labor for $2 of materials. Does that sound right?
Sure this is accurate. I could go back and check the payouts today.
Okay, but just to put the bow on it, you haven't started at KIP yet, so this must be materials, basically, is what you're saying.
That's my assumption.
Okay, got it. Okay. Thank you. All right, anything else? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
on F, what 5.5F, there's a few places where there's just an address listed. Is that one of the sites that we rent out? Like there's 815 Allerton Street? I don't know where that is.
Yeah,
The old Orion.
The old Orion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then there's Granger. I think that would be Atlante. Okay.
So some are named by the address and some are named by the school. And what is there a naming convention or just that's what you just use?
He asked what the address was, and I was giving him the information. of
Yeah,
what that
no, but
was.
why are some called schools and some called addresses?
Don't know.
Oh, okay. I just wondering is it because some are charters?
no, it's because of how it's been reported with DSA for the projects.
Okay.
You know,
The DSA institutes.
So you call KIP campus, you call KIP, but Allerton, you
yeah,
call the
formerly
address.
known as Fair Oaks, and then what is that? 810 Allerton or 815 Allerton, has changed their name a couple times, right? So we just keep it as the address.
It's just
versus-
it's a convenience
Because
thing
they
for
changed,
you.
yeah, and
Yeah,
DSA records, you gotta have that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Who paid for the North Fair Oaks field behind?
City.
City did?
Okay. Anything else on F or G? Okay, then I think that closes out 5.4 then. I'm sorry, 5.5. Thank you, Erica. Always appreciate you taking our questions. Okay, so that takes us to 5.6, future meeting dates and agenda topics. Do we have any dates, Olivia, for next year, or we need to do that? Okay. So we made it through this year's dates. Thank you for everyone for making, I think we made every meeting this year. We had a quorum. We stuck to our dates, which was great. So, do we want to, thinking about next year, do we want to basically follow the same pattern we used for this year in terms of selecting dates and just send it around to the committee to validate? You know, there'll be a March meeting, I think a June meeting, August and November roughly, I think was the cadence, if I have it right. Is there anybody have any known conflicts next year? Not specific dates, but it's like, oh, I'm going to be gone for the month of March, or not anything known at this point.
I wish.
Okay. I know. I agree with you. I can't even think about next year. So we'll put out, I'll work with Olivia. We'll put out a proposal for 4 dates for next year, roughly following the quarter schedule that we're on now. And you know, check your calendars, and if we could agree on those dates, please reserve the spot. Rick, do you have an estimate of when the audits will come in for last fiscal year? How's that close process going? And so we can estimate, so March roughly. Should we plan our meeting after that, or is it too iffy to know when? Because otherwise they would be presented to us at the June meeting, I guess. And the reason I ask is because the audit reports are typically the kickoff for us to then write the annual report, because we need those. And I'd like to get more timely on the annual reports. So maybe we push our first meeting of the year a little bit later, so that we hope to catch those audit reports being done. And then on our next meeting, hopefully in the June timeframe, we could approve our annual report for last fiscal year. And it wouldn't extend to November. Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Is our quorum at 3 now? Or is there a minimum 4?
It's at 4, one above half. So we're at 6. Are we at 5? Yes, we are down to 5 now. You're correct. So yeah, we need 3 people for a quorum.
3 for.
Yeah, but hopefully we will have some new members join the committee and get the numbers back up, because we do have some mandated positions that are unfilled now. I don't think we don't have a taxpayer representative. We don't have a business organization representative. Who wouldn't want to be here? Okay. With that, is there any other agenda topics that anybody wants to add for the next meeting? And I've noted one addition to the reports that we would like to see. It's that budget versus actual. I got that. I do have agenda items for the legal opinion on the cooler rental. And there was something that was an action item, I think, for Van Pelt to follow up on the lighting retrofit, but I'll review the notes and add it accordingly. I can't remember what it was at this point. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So sorry, one question.
Oh, jump the gun.
The legal action, are you seeking outside district separate representation from the school districts?
Me personally? No.
Oh, I mean, for the question that we're posing, are we trying to source that?
I think what we have asked for at this stage, correct me if I'm wrong, is just what was the opinion given to the district that said, hey, it's okay to charge this as a capital expense versus a rental, from the district's attorney.
Okay.
Not the district attorney, the district's attorney.
Yes, thank you.
So I think let's look at that and see what it says, and then make a call. What do we want to do from there? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And personally, my desire to see it, I mean, I want to, confirm that the lawyer said it was okay, but I just want to see their reasoning.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a
Yeah.
difficult issue. I don't know what the right point of view is, but I wanted to hear what the reasoning is.
Okay, now do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, okay. Jit Paul, I think, was in slightly ahead on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.